Jeff and welcome to today's video. So today we're back in my shed. We're in between my out of commission Rad Rover and this regular mountain bike. I figured today I would come on and talk to you guys a little bit about the differences riding an electric fat bike and a regular mountain bike. Now I've had the idea for making this video because, as you know, my Rad Rover right now is completely out of commission. I had a blowout about 2-3 weeks ago. I ordered some tires and nothing's arrived yet. And with the COVID situation and everything being back ordered, I don't expect that I'm going to get tires for this bike anytime soon. So I figured, you know what, I'm going to pull out my old mountain bike and just go riding with that for the time being. And it gave me the idea for this video because I figured for a lot of you guys, if you're riding regular push bikes and you're thinking about getting into an electric fat bike, or on the other hand, if you're on an electric fat bike right now and you're thinking, should I go back to the regular push bike to get more exercise out of it? The idea might be a bit daunting, and I figured today I would just give you a little idea of the major differences between riding these two bikes. Just to give you a bit of context, this is a 2000 Oryx bike. It was the bike I used to ride when I was 14 years old. I rode this bike for about 3 years, from 2000 to 2003. In 2003, I bought my first car and I decided I was too cool for bikes, and essentially that's how I got fat. But anyway, I stopped riding after that, and then I started back riding last year with my Rad Rover. And so this thing has been sitting in the garage for many years. And I just revived it this week because I wanted to go out riding while my Rad Rover was out of commission. So 2000 Oryx, as I said, it's a 26-inch tire by 1.95 inches, so pretty standard tires for the time. Nowadays, I think 27.5 would be a little more common, but 26 by 1.95 for then was a fairly common size. It's an aluminum frame, pretty light bike. It's about 20 pounds, I would say. And that's really the first thing that I noticed when I got on that bike, is just how light it is. This thing fully loaded is lighter than just the frame of the Rad Rover. So that's one thing that you got to keep in mind when you're riding something like that. It's really light. It's also fairly small. That's something that really caught me off guard. I didn't remember that you had to crouch over the bike so much. On a Rad Rover, the front is fairly tall. So when you're sitting on the bike and you're, keeping on the handles, you're not crouched forward as much. On that bike, it's almost like you're looking at the ground, and I don't really like this riding position. I didn't remember it being so pronounced, but yeah, it really is. Having ridden a bike like the Rad Rover and going back to that is really difficult. It took me a little while to get used to it, just to, get riding. And still now I'm finding it kind of difficult and annoying. The other thing I noticed pretty quickly is just how different the riding styles are for this bike to this bike. Back on the Rad Rover, I think I had gotten used to riding in a certain way that really doesn't fit this. So typically on the Rad Rover, I wouldn't shift the gears too much. I would go from maybe 4th to 7 all the time and use the throttle to kick me off the line. On a regular push bike, you really can't do that. And so I had to get back into, remembering to shift down when I'd stop at a stop sign or whatever. Because if I had to start up again from the 8th gear or something like that, it really wasn't going to be possible with a bike like this. That's another little difference that I had to keep in mind, adjusting to going back to a regular push bike. Other than that, one of the major differences that I noticed was just not having a throttle can really be annoying when you're used to it. So typically with the electric bike, what I find, and what is the major advantage in my opinion, is that while you're still pedaling and getting a lot of speed, it's very satisfying. The best thing is when you're getting a bit out of breath, when you're getting tired, you don't have to stop on the side of the road for it. You can just twist the throttle, maintain your speed, keep going, get your breath back, and it start pedaling again. On a bike like this, you really can't do that. So again, if you're getting out of breath, you can stop pedaling for a little while, and hopefully gravity will get you going long enough for you to catch your breath. But if you don't, you really gotta stop and catch your breath, and it can be very annoying. Whereas on an electric bike, you can just have the bike keep going for you while you catch your breath. The electric bike, what I've always liked about it is if you give it a little of pedaling, a little of energy, it will give back a lot of speed and a lot of thrills. Whereas on the regular push bike, you put in a lot of energy and it doesn't translate into as much excitement. And of course that's to be expected, but I feel like it's not giving me the satisfaction that I'm used to getting from the Rad Rover. And so going back from the Rover to the push bike, I'm still enjoying getting the exercise, and I'm still enjoying getting around without having to take the car. As far as the pure thrill of riding is, I don't really get it from this bike as much as I get it from that bike. Now, one thing that surprises a lot of people, and I keep repeating that to everyone, and no one seems to really understand this, where these bikes are very much alike, is when you're going up a hill. So a lot of people imagine that having an electric fat bike is just going to coast you up the hill, and it really isn't. You have to pedal this thing quite hard to get it up a steep hill, and this bike being so much lighter and having so much less rolling resistance, I'd say going up a hill is about the same energy that you have to spend to get up. Maybe the Rad Rover will go up a little faster than the push bike, but really not by much. And where the huge difference is not so much going up the hill. Once you get to the top of the hill, when you're out of breath on a bike like this, you gotta stop and catch your breath. On a bike like this, once you're at the top of the hill and you're back on the flat, you can just twist the throttle and let it go for a little bit where you catch your breath. So if you're out of shape and you're riding a Rad Rover and you're thinking about, should I try to ride a regular push bike from time to time to get more in shape, I would say that is probably a good idea. It's a lot harder, but I'm getting more and more in shape, obviously, than I was with this. Of course, now with an electric fat bike, you could always always pedal it as hard as you can pedal this thing and get as in shape. But the fact of the matter is, it's so satisfying to get the speed and use the electric motor that you will never really push yourself as hard as with something like this. For the getting back in shape, I would say using a bike like this is still a pretty good idea. What I'm thinking I'm going to do once I get the tires back on this, I'm going to try to figure out a way to raise the front on that bike just to make it a little more comfortable to ride, and I will probably start alternating between my regular push bike and my electric fat bike because I just enjoy riding this thing so much for the exercise it gives me, and I just enjoy riding this thing so much for the thrills. So I think combining the two will make a really nice middle ground between, you know, getting back in better shape, having fun and enjoying and going around with the Rad Rover. Obviously, another big difference between these two bikes is how far they really get you. This thing can ride at 30, 35, 40 kilometers an hour if you push it a little. This thing you'll be lucky to do 15, 20 with the same energy that you put in it. So obviously this thing being basically twice as fast will get you twice as far in the same time that you're riding. So to go around and do things that are a little further, this is definitely the better option. But just to ride around and go short distances every once in a while, this thing is quite a blast, honestly, and it's very not satisfying when you're riding it, but when you get back and you've just, you know, done that ride and push it all by yourself, especially when you're coming back from this thing. Sometimes I feel we get a bit of a cheater's complex with an e-bike because a lot of people tend to reduce e-bikes to cheaters, and they say if you're riding an e-bike, you're cheating. I don't really personally agree with that, but you know, it still works at you sometimes that, you know, maybe you are kind of cheating with a bike like this. So going back to something like this and pedaling that for a little bit, it's pretty satisfying. So I think I'm going to keep on riding that bike even once my Rad Rover is back into action. So anyways, guys, I hope you found this video interesting. It was just, like I said, a little off the cuff video. I will see you Sunday for my next music video. All right, peace.